Hello and welcome back to another episode for Project Seed Money. My name is Sharissa Bradley, and I am so excited to be joined today with author Randi-Lee Bowslaugh. And thank you so much for being here. I'm excited to dive into your story as an author and your story as a podcaster, and just kind of hopefully share with my audience a little bit of inspiration for their journey as well.
I'm so excited to be here.
Yes, I'm so excited to have you. And I just feel really lucky because you interviewed me on your podcast a few weeks ago, and it was just such an incredible conversation. And it just so happened that you were already scheduled to be on my podcast today. So
Right?
I felt like that was so serendipitous and cool. So just really awesome. So thank you for being here. And let's just jump right into it. Uh,
Yeah.
I wonder, did you always want to be or plan to be an author?
Yes and no. So, because you said want to be and plan to be. So to me, those are two different questions, right?
Mhm.
So I didn't plan to be, but I always wanted to be in that creative field. So, I mean, my plan was to actually be an actress. Right? But from like a really little age, I was always writing anyways. So this kind of fit too.
Yes. That makes so much sense for your personality, and I mean, your life is we're the same age, I already know that. So, like,
Yeah.
I know for sure that, like, if that is something that you plan to do in your life, like, it's not over yet. You have lots of time, and your
Right.
personality, it does, let's say, lend itself to the creative areas. So I wonder then, what was the catalyst for entering into being an author?
That's a great question. So, like I said, always wrote. I have been writing since I was very little. I used to write like movie reviews and make my mom read them and stuff. Like she didn't just watch it with me. Yeah. But then it was 2017. That's when I actually published my first book. And it was actually this one night my kid was just having a horrible meltdown. She was so sad. She was being bullied at school. She's like, why am I so different? Why don't people like me? And then it popped into my head. I'm like, oh, do I not talk about this stuff enough? And I was like, well, I guess I better write a book. And then we were at that same time, we were cleaning the basement, and I found all of these poems that I had written as a teenager when I was depressed. And I went, okay, well, if that's not, a big sign hitting me in the face, I don't know what is. So that's what became my first book.
Wow. So your daughter inspired, or your child inspired it.
Yeah.
That's so cool. And then how did you go about publishing? Did you self-publish or did you find a publisher? What was your publishing journey like?
Yeah, so I am self-published. And my very first book, I had absolutely no idea what I was doing. So I did go through what are they like people call them vanity publishers, I guess. So you're still self-published, but you get help from somebody. So I went that route because I had absolutely no clue. And even now, after almost 10 years of being an author, I'm still learning stuff. I'm still like, oh, I need to do that now. Now I have to go back with all my books and fix this one little thing so I can do that. So it's kind of hilarious because you don't know what you don't know and you don't know what questions to ask because you really have no idea, especially if you're like, hey, I'm doing it this way, not realizing, hey, if I ask some questions, there might be some other very cool other things I can add in or do. So it's always going to be a learning experience, which is really cool, but self-published.
Well, and the interesting thing is that the landscape in publishing continues to change. So even if
Yeah.
you had learned everything there was to learn over the last 10 years, tomorrow there would still be something new to learn because it continues to change.
Yeah, exactly. Which I love because I love learning, but at the same time, I'm like, oh my gosh, am I really going to go back for all of my books and do this? I don't know. I need to do it.
Oh, I can totally relate to that on so many levels, like personally, and then as a publisher, there's just so many things that change, and then I just have to go back through my entire catalog, and it's like 50 like different files, and like
Yes.
it's so overwhelming. I wonder when you were on that journey of publishing your first book, and then maybe even if you want to speak to how it's been different since publishing your first book, but did you face any self-doubt when you were going through the publishing process?
I couldn't even let you finish the question. Yeah, definitely. So, I mean, as I mentioned, I have depression. So, I mean, that in and of itself always is like, actually, you suck. You're horrible. I'm like, oh, that's cool. My own voice. Thank you for telling me that. So there's always that. And then because I write about mental health, there's always that other piece that, oh, nobody's actually going to want to read it. Nobody talks about it. Nobody's going to care. You're not even a doctor of it. Like, nobody wants to hear about that. And so there is always that side. I'm really glad that I have people in my life that are like, no, no, this is good. Talk about it. And then, of course, guests on my show are always like, oh, thank you for giving me this space. And I'm like, I'm doing good. Because there is always that self doubt. So having it come from outside of me really quiets those inside voices. Because even though I know in my heart that this is important and it's well written and it's a good story, my head doesn't like to agree. So it's really hard that way. I mean, you kind of had a two-parter question there. You talked about self-doubt, but then you also said, how had things changed? So when I had published my first book, I was like, I didn't call myself an author. I'm like, oh, I wrote a book. And I think a lot of authors do that with their first book. They don't own that they are an actual author. They're like, I wrote a book. That's all I did. I wrote a book. And because, I wrote it, I gave it to somebody else. They did the cover, they did the formatting, they did everything. Now when I have a book, I do the formatting, I do the cover. I love the creative part. I get an editor because you really should not edit your own stuff. There comes a certain point that somebody else has got to look at it. But I love doing all that other little bits of things, whether or not it turns out exactly the way I want it. Whatever. My goal really is just to inspire other people. So if they can look at it and go, wow, this is pretty good, and you did that, sure, why not? So it's definitely changed. And like you said, it's still changing and always changing.
Oh, absolutely. And I can just attest to the space that you have created on a personal note, because on your podcast, I was able to share about things that I had never publicly talked about before. So I felt
I
like,
was so happy.
oh, safe. Yeah. And I feel like you are absolutely walking the walk. So even though you do deal with the self doubt, like as one of those outside voices coming in, I definitely feel like you're doing all the right things and you're taking all the right action. So it sounds like community was really pivotal for you. And I wonder if you've developed any other tools in the meantime to kind of battle the self-doubt, or is it really primarily that it needs to come from like outside, like it's okay, you're doing great, or have you developed anything to help you kind of keep writing?
Yeah, so it's a lot of the stuff that I learned in therapy. So I'm a big proponent of therapy. Love it. I can transfer over into, that academic creative writing side, the business side of my life. Because really I went to therapy to deal with like past trauma and issues and depression and things like that. But I mean, you don't silo yourself, right? Everything is intertwined. So the things that I learned in therapy definitely help and transfer over. I would say one of the biggest things, also my antidepressants help, but one of the biggest things that I learned in therapy very early on was when those voices are doing what they do best and belittling me, to stop and go, well, where is their evidence? And I go, oh, I don't I don't actually have any evidence of that. And so when you actually put it in that context, I'm like, huh. So my voices are lying to me because there is absolutely no evidence that, this book is horrible or that people aren't going to like it. In fact, there's evidence to the contrary when people have read it and they give me good reviews. So it's very helpful. And that was something that we worked on long before I became an author, actually. So it's definitely something that has transferred over to every aspect of my life. And there's lots of things I learned in therapy, but that's the one that I share all the time when people ask me that question because it's one of the biggest ones that I think everyone can implement.
Oh, I couldn't agree more. When you have facts, like then the voice can't really say anything else. So I
Mhm.
think that that's and to the contrary, like you don't have any evidence, so you're wrong. And I love that because you have even though you explain like I have this self-doubt and I have these voice like this voice that comes up and says like it's not going to work, you have published books. You did do the self-publishing route. You do now format and do your books like and your book covers. Like you have only grown as a person, as an author. So this negative self-talk, it didn't stop you in any way. Like maybe it might have paused for a second, but it obviously didn't stop you. So your tools are useful. It sounds like your tools and your community have given you the ability to like continue to push forward.
Yes, exactly. The one thing I would say that stopped me was finding one of those like big publishers. I didn't even attempt to go that route because I know in my head you're going to get like 99 no's before you get one yes. And I just was like, you know what, I'm not even going to put myself through that knowing what I deal with. So I will say it did stop me doing that, but who knows? You never know how things are going to turn out in the end. There's lots of years left.
True. And it does also sound like you appreciate having control over your whole process,
Yes.
which when
Yes.
you go traditional, you wouldn't have any of that.
Exactly.
So it does sound like it is a benefit, even though like maybe the rejection part of it would suck, but also the part that, in my opinion, that's the worst is you have no control. You only get 10% of your royalties. You don't get to know how your book sales are doing. Like you don't have that. Like you can, as somebody who's self-published, you can go in and check how did I do
Yes.
today. If someone said they bought my book, I can go and look today, not in 6 months
Exactly.
when you get a royalties report. So I think there's a lot of benefit to that as well.
Yeah. Oh, I totally agree. And especially, like I said, I'm writing mostly nonfiction. I mean, I've written other stuff, kids' books and stuff to break up the hard part, but I write nonfiction. I can't have somebody else dictating to me what should or should not go in there when it's my story I'm sharing.
Oh, I couldn't agree more. I really couldn't. So I wonder, you have published multiple books. So after you publish the book, do you feel vulnerable of like kind of like open, here's my story? And then again, because I like to ask these two-part questions, has it changed at all since publishing subsequent books? Do you feel any differently since like the first book, second, that sort of thing?
100%. I would say after the first one was like a big, okay, I'm putting it out there, right? But it was still just sounds silly, just poetry, but it was stuff that happened a decade ago, right? The poems that were written happened a decade ago, so it wasn't as vulnerable. When I released my second book in 2018, that was about raising my kid with autism. That was fresh. That was in the moment. That was from pregnancy up until the moment that we were still in, which I want to say grade 6. And so that one was way more vulnerable because I was still living what the outcome was going to be and still learning and still very much new to the whole autism world, really. So it's like, hey, I'm putting this out there. People might not agree, but I mean, this is my reality right now. So I have to, gonna speak my truth.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Now, though, because of your two-part question, I always forget you got two parts. Now it's not as bad. Like, yes, I still feel that twinge of vulnerability when I publish a book, but I'm more owning this is me, especially because I go on these podcasts. So a lot of the things that I've put in the books might have already been discussed, but they're put in a different light or they're put with the entirety of the story instead of just a one little blip like in an interview. So it's not nearly as nerve-wracking putting it out there as it used to be.
Sure, sure. You've gained some practice, a little bit more confidence, maybe.
Yeah.
And you also host a podcast. So I do want to bring that up because like I said, I've been on your podcast. I just think it's an incredible, beautiful space that you've created. And it does tie in with the themes of your nonfiction books. Is that what got you started in podcasting?
Yes and no. See, you like two-part questions. I like two-part answers.
I love that.
So, like I said before, I thought I was going to be a famous actress when I grew up, right? Like, I love the whole acting creative space. What better way than to have your own show? Like, honestly, if YouTube was a thing back in the 90s, I would have been one of those people having like those little sitcoms and stuff that they make on YouTube. Because me and my cousins, we were always making movies and stuff. So I would have been all over that. I was just born too early. But so that was one thing was that I knew I wanted to do it. I just didn't know what I was going to do it for. And I had kind of dabbled with a few other ones that I did like 5 or 6 episodes. I'm like, this is not feeling it. I'm not feeling this, right? And I wait and but this one, it makes so much sense. It feels right. It feels honest and truthful for who I am. And so it's easier to create that space for people to talk. So this show now, I've been doing it 4 years, getting close. I got to be getting close to 300 episodes at this point. I got to go back and actually see what number I'm at. But yeah, it's been a long time. So it's definitely something I absolutely love. But yeah, I always knew I was going to do something. I just didn't know where it was at the time. But yeah, I had tried a few things before publishing that didn't really pan out, but this one's got it.
I love that. And I love that you gave yourself your platform. Like, okay, I want to do this. I have this personality, I have this ability. And you do, you bring it out in other people too. And you ask really great questions. So it's something that you're naturally gifted in. So I'm really, really grateful that you went ahead and did that. And I can also like relate to the like starting and stopping of the ones that don't feel really in alignment either, because it's hard to stay consistent on something if it isn't like your path, right?
Yes, exactly. And they always say, I can't remember the exact statistic, but like most people who start a podcast never make it past like what is it, 5 episodes or something?
Right.
And I mean, one, it has to do with did you really want to do it? But two, they're trying, I think, to put themselves into what they think their audience would want instead of being themselves and having their audience come to them.
Oh, I love that. And that's such good advice too, because if you are someone who's like starting and stopping, like maybe it is just about living your like authentic truth, like what you are.
Mhm.
It's so much easier to show up this way,
Yes.
especially in a consistent way, which is what you have to do if you're going to be a
Oh,
podcast.
exactly.
Yeah. So I just have one last question for you. If you can share with my audience just a little bit of inspiration. They are female authors, they're on the fence. Maybe they haven't even written their first book yet because fear is stopping them. Is there something that you can say to them just to help them to keep going?
Just do it. 5 pair of Nike shoes, just do it. But I think you're asking for a little more than that. Honestly, I think what we've been talking about, find something that is authentically you, whether that's nonfiction or you're into the horror or you love fantasy. I mean, it doesn't have to be real life to be authentically you, right? Like, I love horror. I have a book of short, scary stories because I love horror, right? It's still authentically me. It still fits into who I am, but I mean, you'd look at it and be like, this is kind of a one-off, but it's not when you get to know me. But that's what you have to do. You have to find what you are actually passionate about in whatever space that is, and then just start doing it. If you end up publishing, awesome. If you don't, who cares? You did something that you're passionate about. So I think honestly, just doing it, worry about what you're going to end up doing with that manuscript later. First thing first, you got to get it on paper.
Oh, that's so good. Thank you so much, Randy. Can you please tell everyone where they can find you, where they can find your books, and where they can find your podcast?
Thanks. So my website is rbwriting.ca. I'm in Canada. And then you can find me on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok under Randi-Lee Bowslaugh. My YouTube channel, very important because, she just had her interview, is The Write or Die Show. Or you can also find it under just my name, Randi-Lee Bowslaugh, on YouTube, and The Write or Die Show on like any of the podcasting platforms that you actually listen to. And you'll find it. And it's amazing. And you should also go and listen to Sharissa's episode.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And thank you for being here with us and sharing a little bit of your wisdom with us today.
And thank you so much for having me.
Thank you so much for joining me on another episode for Project Seed Money. Please don't forget to like and subscribe. It really helps the channel. And I will see you with another interview next week.